Ned Kelly. The name echoes through Australian history. He is a figure of immense fascination and debate. Was he a cold-blooded killer, or was he a folk hero fighting for the oppressed? His story is one of rebellion, tragedy, and enduring legend. Born into poverty and hardship, Kelly's life was a collision course with the law. Kelly's story continues to captivate us. He is a potent symbol of resistance against authority. He is a reminder of the harsh realities of Australia's past. He's a figure who continues to divide opinion. Edward Ned Kelly was born in 1854 in Victoria, Australia, a land of opportunity and hardship. His Irish immigrant family struggled to survive in the harsh and unforgiving bush. They faced not only the challenges of poverty, but also the prejudice and discrimination from the authorities and local settlers. Ned's father, Red Kelly, was frequently in trouble with the law, often clashing with the police over minor infractions. Tragically, Red Kelly died when Ned was just 12 years old, leaving the family in dire straits and deepening their struggle for survival. Young Ned was forced to grow up fast. He took on the responsibility of providing for his family, working tirelessly to make ends meet. Desperation led him to turn to horse stealing and other petty crimes as legitimate means of survival seemed out of reach. His run-ins with the police became increasingly frequent and serious, each encounter hardening his resolve and defiance. This relentless cycle of poverty, crime, and conflict with the law set the stage for his transformation into the notorious outlaw he would become, a symbol of resistance and rebellion in Australian history. In 1878, a confrontation with a police officer at the Kelly family home changed everything. This incident marked the beginning of a dramatic transformation for the Kelly family. Ned and his brother Dan, along with their friends Joe Byrne and Steve Hart, became fugitives. They were forced to flee into the dense Australian bush to evade capture. They formed the Kelly Gang, a group that would soon become infamous. The gang saw themselves as fighting back against an oppressive system. They believed they were standing up for the rights of the common people. They robbed banks and gave some of the loot to struggling farmers, earning them a Robin Hood-like reputation among some. Their actions were seen as a form of social justice by their supporters. However, their crimes became increasingly violent. The line between resistance and criminality began to blur. They were responsible for the deaths of 3 policemen at Stringybark Creek. This brutal encounter shocked the nation. This event turned them into Australia's most wanted outlaws. Their faces were plastered on wanted posters across the country. A large reward was placed on their heads. The government was willing to pay handsomely for their capture. The authorities were determined to bring them to justice. A massive manhunt was launched, with law enforcement scouring the bush for any sign of the gang. The Kelly Gang, armor symbol of defiance. The Kelly Gang knew they were being hunted. They prepared for a final showdown with the police. They crafted suits of thick iron armor to protect themselves from bullets. The armor was crudely made, but surprisingly effective. It became an iconic symbol of their defiance and their willingness to fight to the death. The armor was hot and heavy, but it gave the Kelly Gang a psychological edge. They believed they were invincible. This belief would have tragic consequences in their final confrontation with the law. The siege at Glenrowan, a desperate last stand. This was a pivotal moment in Australian history, marking the end of the infamous Kelly Gang. In June 1880, the Kelly Gang made their last stand at Glenrowan. This small town became the stage for their final, desperate attempt to evade capture. They took over the town's inn, taking hostages. The inn became a fortress, a last refuge for the gang as they prepared for the inevitable confrontation. They planned to derail a train carrying police reinforcements. This was a bold move, aimed at delaying the police and buying them more time. However, their plan went awry. The gang's meticulous preparations were undone by unforeseen circumstances. A school teacher warned the police about the derailed train. This act of bravery turned the tide against the Kelly Gang. The siege at Glenrowan became a fierce gun battle. Bullets flew, and the air was thick with smoke and tension. The Kelly Gang, clad in their armor, fought bravely. Their homemade armor, though heavy and cumbersome, provided some protection, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The police force was relentless, and the odds were heavily stacked against the gang. Dan Kelly, Joe Byrne and Steve Hart were killed in the shootout. Their deaths marked the beginning of the end for the Kelly gang. Ned Kelly, despite being shot multiple times, continued to fight until he was brought down. His capture marked the end of an era and he became a legend in Australian folklore. Legacy of a rebel villain or folk hero. Ned Kelly was captured alive, but he was badly wounded. He was put on trial for murder and found guilty. He was hanged at Melbourne jail in November 1880. His last words were reportedly, "Such is life." Kelly's death did not end his story. He became a legend in Australia. Some saw him as a cold-blooded killer who deserved his fate. Others viewed him as a folk hero, a symbol of resistance against injustice. This debate continues to this day. Ned Kelly's story remains a powerful and enduring part of Australian folklore.